I'm joined by Conservative MP for West Dorset and former RMT member Chris Loader and journalist and union member Nichi Hodgson. Thank you very much, both of you. Great stuff to have you on the show. Chris, I can see you made it into the studio. I take it you didn't take the trains.
Regrettably not, Patrick. There wasn't any. Shame.
No. Look, how do you feel about all of this stuff that's going on, basically?
Absolute madness. Shouldn't be happening. Totally unnecessary. When you see a situation of a ballot for strike action, the result of which was declared on the 24th of May, and you see pay talks and meaningful discussions for the vast majority of the railway businesses start 2 days later, there is something completely wrong. For me, I think there's something deeply, deeply sinister about the motives behind the strike. We know that the president of the RMT is a member of the Communist Party of Great Britain. Yeah. We know the Assistant General Secretary of the RMT has equally questionable motives as well. And it really concerns me that they are taking an ideological attack to the country in an attempt to bring down a Conservative government. OK,
Nichi, can you explain to me why on earth rail workers deserve a pay rise? Because as far as I can see it, the service is pretty shocking.
Well, everyone deserves a pay rise. That's the issue.
No, they
the
don't.
Point is that
no, sorry, hang on a second. No, they don't. You saying everyone deserves every single person in this country deserves a pay rise. That's madness.
Because given the cost, it's not. Given the cost of living crisis and the fact that wages have been oppressed for more than 10 years, and the fact that everybody is suffering to pay the most basic of bills right now, and that women are quitting jobs because they have to prioritise childcare themselves over working. That is the issue.
So what happens? So I just get my wallet out, do I? I'll get my wallet out now, and I take out the tenner that's in there, do I? I take that tenner out, I take out the tenner, yeah, good stuff. I take my cards out, do I? And we all pay, so everyone can have a pay rise, do we?
We don't need to do it. What the Tories
I might as well set fire to this.
Why don't you listen to my argument and then you can debate it? The point is, the Tories have got plenty of access to funds in terms of taxing the very, very rich, taxing the businesses that do not pay the amount of taxes that they should be doing. There's plenty of access to money, but we don't tap into it. It's not about taking from us, the poorest people that are just doing their jobs, paying their taxes. That's not the point that I'm trying to make at all. The point is there is access to funds and the Tories don't take it from the right people. You don't take £20 a week from a broke person who's trying to feed their kids if you're trying to do good for the nation. You know, the policies on tax.
So, they take more than 20 quid off me every week. It's called tax. Chris, have we got the money for this? Are you sitting on a magic money tree?
You know very specifically what policy I'm talking about. The £20.
So this is not about magic money tree or anything like that. Fundamentally, I don't think Nichi and I disagree about the need for a pay rise in these circumstances. But this is not what this is about. This strike is not about pay. If it was about pay, you wouldn't have had a ballot result 2 days before the pay negotiations had even started. We're in a situation now where we've got militant unions using good, decent, hard-working people to the 40,000 number to support their ideological objectives. Now, as you said earlier, Patrick, I used to be a member of the RMT. I know full well that when your union agrees to go on strike, you don't fall out of line because there are generally consequences if you do so. But we've really just got to get to the point here. The fact is that this isn't just one negotiation. There are 13 train operators. There's Network Rail, which is the largest business in the railway, all having separate negotiations. And it just so happens at the same time that they've all come to a disagreement without a proposal even put forward for a good number of them. The fact is, it's not just about pay. There are terms and conditions that on one side of the industry, you've got groups of staff working 42 hours a week. On the other side, you've got those working 34, 35 hours a week. On one side, you've got those who can have Sundays off because it's not in their contract, so they can stay at home every Sunday if they want, even though the railways have to run. And you have the difference on the other side. And I could go on and on and on. This is not just about...
Well, I'll come back to you. Nichi. I'm going to lob it over to you now. I mean, if you were earning £60,000 a year to press start and stop on a tube, would you be on strike right now?
Well, hang on a minute. Are the tube drivers supported by a different union? I think that's really important to say. Train drivers are.
No, they're on strike.
Train drivers are... Right, no, I know they're on strike, but train drivers have a different union, don't they?
So the train drivers have two unions.
I think Chris will outline this for you, so go on.
We need to clarify that for the audience.
Nichi,
just to help you out there, so the train drivers predominantly are represented by ASLEF, but there are a smaller number of train drivers that are represented by RMT.
OK, there you go.
Okay. But I think that's important to say for the audience, because the train drivers are the highest paid. The majority of people are on a median salary of 30,000 or less, right? So we need to really say that for the record.
So why would the drivers go on strike?
That's the same as nurses. That's the same as nurses. Because as you've just said, that they're wanting other things. Look, my fundamental point here is that the right to strike in a capitalist society is pretty much one of the only things you've got as a worker. Right?
I do agree with that. I do agree with the right to strike.
Is that we have watched the Tories in recent months try to limit the freedoms of people protesting, and protesting is different. But if they go for protesting, how long will it be before they start going for strike action and ban strike action outright? That is very important, that we stand up for the right to strike.
And I think that's a fair point. And that is one of the things I will say, Nichi, that I've thought about this, because at the same time as this is a massive inconvenience, and obviously I'm a bit miffed about it, to say the least, I think that's come across, at the same time, I wouldn't want to live in a society where you couldn't protest and you couldn't strike. So sometimes maybe you have to take it on the chin. Maybe that's what I have to do now. But Chris, I'll just look back.
How can you decide which times are appropriate to strike or not?
Well,
I understand what you're
isn't
saying,
it?
but you think it's not about what we think it's about. But if we decide now that it isn't, and then we every time somebody strikes, we have to decide whether they're allowed to or not, that's not going to work either.
I understand that. I'm going to ask you both basically almost the same question now, actually. But Chris, I'll start with you. This lot claim to be on the side of the workers, your ordinary working-class people, I suppose. But actually, Chris, this is affecting working-class people, isn't it?
It is affecting working-class people, Patrick, but it's... this is not, like I said just now, this is an ideological battle. Nichi, I'm sorry, we haven't met before. I don't know if you're a member of a trade union. I don't know if you've been on strike. Have you been on strike before?
I've not been on strike. I haven't had to yet, but I would.
So
if I
know it's a bit unusual for a Tory MP to sit here and say he can trump someone on the opposite side of the debate and say he's been on strike, because I have been on strike earlier in my career. I can tell you now, at that point, this was when Bob Crow, of course, was the General Secretary of the RMT. I was a guard at the time, and the situation I found myself in was that we, as a group of staff, lost the best possible deal that the employer put on the table. It was a considerable reduction in hours in the working week, a considerable improvement in pay, and the only reason that didn't happen is because the union locked in for ideological purposes. And that's what we're seeing right now. This is what's wrong. I do not disagree with you, Nichi, about the right to strike. I think that's an important thing that happens, that we have in this country. But this is about why the strike is taking place. And in my mind, this is far, far too early in the process for these strikes to happen on such an enormous scale. OK,
Nichi, I'll give the final word to you. Look, I must say, I know we disagree, but I've thoroughly enjoyed this debate. It's important that we can have this kind of discussion. I'll lob that one straight back over to you then. Actually, Chris got a point there, hasn't he? Maybe, A, this is actually affecting workers more than the people striking would like, but also, B, they might be striking themselves out of a job here.
Well, maybe they are, and then that's an important thing to say, because they have to be with the appropriate union and they have to actually talk to the union about exactly what they want, not let the union run away with that, which is so often what happens in trade unions. But more importantly, it is a visibility thing. If people are seen to be striking, that sends a very, very strong message to Boris Johnson and his government about the cost of living crisis. And that is the message we need to take home out of this.
Welcome to the GB News YouTube channel. You can watch us live 24 hours a day, catch up on your favourite shows, and join in the conversation in the comments below.
Don't forget to subscribe and you'll never miss any of our exclusive content.